How do you think about that, Josh? This is an important question for practical founders because everybody hits plateaus.
For me, it is a puzzle to be solved, right? So anytime you try to build something, you hope that you'll just keep hitting accelerators and different serendipitously find those things, right? But I've learned through my life, for the most part, there's things that work and things that work for a certain duration, right? So, and this is one of those ones. And for me, and I think it probably comes back to just one, how I think about the business, because my innate goals for the business, I think, are different than most founders. So like one of the classic questions anytime I'm talking to another founder is, they'll ask me what my exit strategy is. And my answer is usually, well, I don't really have one. That's not how I think about the business, right? It's a very clear type of thing where I'm like, I enjoy my work. And that's probably, if anything, my North Star is like, am I having fun? Do I enjoy this work? And I also continuously reinvent, I say, myself and my role to fit those. There might be a job I had to do that I didn't enjoy, but then I'll do that until it's no longer like the limiting step and then backfill for myself.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast, where every week we hear an amazing story from a serious founder who built a valuable software company and did it without big funding. I'm your host, Greg Head, and this week my guest is Josh Ho, the CEO and founder of Referral Rock. They're a referral marketing software product for small businesses, not e-commerce, not the digital affiliate manager. This is regular small businesses in the world who get customer referrals and want to be more systematic, more proactive, and more engaged to get those great customer referrals, which is generally the best go-to-market channel there is. He's been doing this business for about 10 years. He's learned a lot. He's grown up as an engineer, now CEO, and he's a deep thinker about this complex puzzle of his business and the referral marketing game. You're going to learn about referral marketing as well. So it's a great interview with Josh. Hey, Josh, welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
You're in the Washington, D.C. / Baltimore area, that north side of town and everything. You're a software guy, a bootstrap founder. Are you the only one in your neighborhood that doesn't work for the federal government up there and dealing with all the turmoil that we've got in the U.S.?
Pretty close. If you kind of took a random sampling, I'd be an oddball that I'm not tied to the government.
Well, it's a typical practical founder story. People see you being busy. They have no idea what you do, right? And you live modestly, I'm sure, as a practical founder, but your software company is worth something, at least on paper, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. And you don't have a 9-to-5 job, for better or worse. Well, that. So you've got a really interesting company called Referral Rock. And interesting, like Zvi Band, who was in your neighborhood there, who was on the podcast earlier this summer, referred you, said you should talk to Josh. So you're in the referral marketing game. Why don't you tell us about Referral Rock? What is it and who is it for?
We're in the referral marketing game. We help mostly small business, SMBs, run referral programs. Alternatively, they may use, a contact form and fill out some information, or they might try to glue on affiliate software, different things like that. But we found a niche there where a lot of small businesses really need help kind of automating and scaling referral programs.
And you make software for them. It's kind of the in real life stuff, meaning like a small business, pest control company. I'm sure a SaaS company could use it too, but
yes,
this is still, it's not really super scale. It's, hand to hand and something that works these days because you've got an up and running company doing this.
Yeah. I mean, because most of our customers come through inbound and we have a strong SEO footprint, for a long time, it was probably a wider market than we,
right.
that classic horizontal, hey, it could be for everyone.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So with those kind of coming in, we took a little bit of, we had our positioning kind of where we were standing. And I think that's directed a lot of these types of customers that are successful, which a lot of it was who's doing it for multi-step types of sales processes versus an e-commerce transactional sale. So someone could take a B2B.
A one-click sale versus you talk to somebody and we follow up and it's a little harder. And if they don't have some momentum from somebody who endorsed your business, things get a lot better when there's a referral.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And let's talk about your business. What can you say about revenues and customers and employees these days?
So I think we're around 500 or so customers active, and we probably had many more of those. But as you know, SMB has churn problems, has leakage
Notorious and
problems, things like
challenging.
that.
Been there. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then let's see, we're about 20 people,
Okay.
and yep, and
Okay.
around 3 million or so of revenue.
Okay. Great. And how old is the business?
We had our first paying customer in 2015, but that was when it was just me, and it probably took a few years before it was officially incorporated as Referral Rock and had other people working with me as well.
Yeah. So you've had different phases that experiment with it. Maybe you didn't quit your day job or your consulting, and then let's go all in and then start hiring a few people. And then you get to a level. Then COVID happened, for better or for worse, and then post-COVID, and now
Right.
the settling in and all that kind of stuff. Do
Yeah,
you feel like
seen a
you've
lot of
been through the
shows.
ringer on all the phases?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And you're the founder and CEO. Do you have a co-founder and a leadership
Uh,
team now in this little
I have a
business, or
very
is it
strong
very
leadership
scrappy
team.
and efficient? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a very strong leadership team. I have a person that is the closest thing I would have to a co-founder slash business partner. So, as part of the story, he was one of the first people that essentially took a large chunk of my day-to-day responsibilities. And to this day, it is pretty much split between, him handling mostly the operations side of the business, including sales and services teams.
Yes. And do you have any outside funding at all? Anybody in your cap table besides
Nope.
you and maybe a little bit of your team? Yeah, great. So, yeah, and you were a developer, right? You come from the technical side of things, saying, "I want
Correct.
my independence." And I've heard you say on multiple podcasts, talk about it as indie hacker, right? The engineer who wants
Right.
the software developer who wants to get independent and so forth. Do you consider yourself an indie hacker now, or have you grown past that into a B2B,
Uh,
small business, SaaS
Interesting.
CEO,
I
or,
wouldn't say
yeah.
grown past it. I would say
Yeah.
I started on that path with that sort of goal in mind, right? The what I'll call the indie hacker dream, right? You see it not too different than when you see, so and so raised this money, or you see this company that had this, lovables of these days going from, zero to X millions
Yeah,
in
you hear
6
the
months
stories.
type of
There's the
thing.
podcast, just like
Right.
this one. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, right. So, but the indie hacker one was classically, hey, I'm a solo founder. I just get to go and do development. Maybe I have one or two people to help me with the support, and that's it. It's a
And I
product-led
quit my
growth.
day
It's like
job. I
recurring revenue.
earn my
Yeah,
independence. Yes.
exactly, exactly. Maybe I'll travel, do that type of thing. So that was the dream to start, but I quickly figured out that didn't match Referral Rock in terms of customer needs and customer demand, and adjusted as such. So.
And is that because you wanted to go that way and see how far you could take it up and build a team and get a little more weight in the business, or you were just pulled there and against your will?
I would say I was pulled there, but it was not against my will. I'm sort of I enjoy challenges, enjoy problem
Yes.
solving at my core. I'm a systems person and engineer, so I just saw it as a new systems problem, right? It's just you have people instead of code that might have more variance and variability, and you have to kind of build in tolerances for that. So.
Yeah, I think there's, the old saying, there's two kinds of people in the world, those that think there's two kinds of people, those that don't. But, I think there's engineers who really don't want to deal with any of the business stuff, the marketing, the people, the operations. And there's
Right.
engineers who were smart and say, well, I'll just apply my smarts to all of that. I mean, Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and the rest were great engineers that learned how to do other things, right, to create a big business. And I guess you're one of those. Are you coding or selling or,
These
doing,
days,
yeah, these days?
I'm not coding or selling these days. I am mostly CEOing, but as with
Which
the
is
size of it,
everything else. I'm sure you got a few things on your plate. Are
which is
you
everything
yeah,
else. But then I try to pick and choose and how I've modeled the team around me, and the things I'm still doing heavy product management, heavy product
I see.
strategy, business strategy,
Right.
those pieces, things
Yeah.
like that.
That's usually the last to get delegated, right? Is the super savvy nuanced, strategic, important, high leverage stuff right there at the core. And that's the
Right.
fun stuff that you get to work on,
Hmm.
presumably. Well, the center of the puzzle there is, it's a challenging puzzle. Okay, so this is bootstrapped. Is it profitable now? You're paying
Yep.
yourself and
Yep.
oh,
Yep.
good.
We've been
Yeah. And do you have
profitable from day one, pretty much. So,
oh, look at that. So there's protecting your independence, right? Make sure
yep.
there's something
Hmm.
in the bank. It's some insurance there. Do you have a reasonable life? It's Friday. Are you working Fridays or working crazy hours or comes and goes?
Not crazy hours. I have a family, and I probably work. I don't know. I probably just start work as soon as I get up, and aside from helping, you know, get kids off to school and whatnot. But then it's essentially that till maybe 4 or 5, depending on the day. But yeah.
Okay, so you're pacing yourself, and we'll talk about what you want to do with this and your challenges and phases of life, how you've grown, how the business
Right.
and market has grown and changed, and all of that. How did you get into this referral business? There's everybody knows referrals out there. You
Right.
don't have to explain referrals to somebody, but referral software is a lot of tools, sales and marketing, small business, all of that. How did you get into this space, Mr. Engineer?
Uh, by accident, as many kind of ideas hitting you at a certain time. So at the point in time in my life, let's see, I was consulting, and previous to that, I was independently consulting, building software for different people, and previous to that, I had a different startup that was kind of in that early or late 2000, like 2009, 2008 timeframe, all when everyone was reading TechCrunch for those big VC
Yeah.
raises and
Yeah,
things
Web
like that. And
2.0 is just starting, right?
yes,
Yes, all that.
exactly.
So, yeah.
So I had a different company then, and it essentially didn't work. But what I took from that, I learned a couple little, I guess, skills and how to go to market and whatnot. That's where I kind of learned SEO and whatnot. But what while I was consulting, I'm sitting here going, I still want to build a recurring revenue type of business. So I don't know even people as much were calling it SaaS then, right? They may call it application service providers, different
Yeah,
things, or
ASP. Mhm.
right, or the word cloud had very ambiguous meanings at that point in
Right.
time as well.
We didn't quite believe cloud yet, and not everybody agreed on that.
Right. But I knew it was software that had recurring revenue, right? And this recurring revenue model. And yeah, I was sitting at a car shop, waiting for my car to get completed. It was actually at like a Honda dealership, and someone walked in and told the salesperson they got referred by a friend, and we're kind of looking for a discount type of thing. And I was just watching this while drinking coffee and seeing this whole interaction happen in real life. I'm like, ooh, I've seen these different referral programs for e-commerce and all these other ones. Like, who does it for this type of business, this type of sale? So, so off to Google to search for different people, and I didn't really find any businesses or any software providers that did that, solve that. So that started the discovery journey. That started the kind of honing in on that point of view of, can I serve this type of customer in a
And you didn't
referral
quit your
marketing
day
way?
job. You just said, "Is there a business here? It smells like something could be important," all of that. And interesting, you were a software developer, but this is a frontline sales and marketing problem, right? So, you weren't a sales and marketer saying, "How could I build a tool?"
Right.
You were a builder thinking, "Oh, is that a problem I could solve?" How long did it take you to go through what else is out there, and does anybody care, and talk to people, and, build a
Um,
prototype or whatever that was
yeah.
to get through yeah, this is a thing. I'm going to go build it.
At that stage, I had done a lot of different ideations quickly, so I kind of honed at least a level of like speed to it. So whether it was taking existing scaffolding that I had built, right? Like the first version of Referral Rock was very much just like, how quickly can I build the front interface that people will submit referrals to? And how quickly can I put that together so that I can then put it in front of businesses that, would you use this if I put your name here, your logo here type of thing. And early on, I even used, I think it was SurveyMonkey, possibly. It was one of the form softwares like Survey and
Fill in a form,
fill in a form.
become,
And that was my admin interface in the beginning. So I took the software, said, hey, fill out this survey, upload your logo, like, here's 3 lines of text you're going to have. And I exported it out into CSV and then like basically dumped them in the database manually, right? So there was like, hey, how can I get 5, 10 potential customers or businesses I knew up and running, and so they can viscerally see it and see if it's like, oh yeah, I would totally start using this or send
Did
it
you
to my
have
customers.
this, let's say off-the-shelf tools, bubblegum and baling wire version, as the Australians say, just to prove the concept, and then you went and coded it a little more deeply, and
I
how
had
did
little
you get
parts
to
of
it?
code, so it was enough
Okay.
to make sure that I could send it out and that people could
It would look
essentially
like an
use.
app. I see.
Yeah, I mean, I get, whether it's MVP or whatever you want to call it at that
Yeah,
point
yeah.
in time. Obviously, there were kind of sketch drawings. I never went out with sketch drawings to people. I did, and this was all probably happened over the course of, I would say, about 6 months or so, of in terms of starting to work on it again part-time while I'm doing other things and nights and weekends types of things, or and then getting the flexibility of being a consultant, getting meeting in the middle of the day, like going in showing this to some people. So,
Right. And what did you learn from your first software product idea that didn't go well that you applied right here? Was usually that first lesson is, oh, people really need to care about this problem and they really need to be moving into what I'm selling in order for this to go. What was what was your version of what the higher bar was that you had taken away from your first startup, which was
the
Uber
biggest thing
Note, a
was
note-taking app? Yeah. Yeah.
selling to businesses. So the
Ah.
note-taking app was a competitor to Evernote. It was like,
Uh-huh.
I had the big dreams of what Notion is today. Like, oh, it's a
Oh, yes,
personal
yes.
wiki, and then it's also a shareable wiki, and then it's this monstrosity of, keeping all your personal type of information. So, but yeah, selling to businesses was like bar none the first thing. So out of any ideas after Ubernote were all, would a business buy this? Businesses have money, can at least tie it from a like, you know, tie it to their own growth, tie it to their own pain points, rather than necessarily a consumer, right? Like a consumer individual, whether it's like notes apps, different things like that. There are a million different ways, and they're all free, and no one really wants to pay
Yeah.
for them.
So you already said it's B2B. That's where the money is. That's where the value is. I could play in this value equation. You could ask somebody, how much would you pay for a referral? Right. And they'd
Right.
give you a number that's interesting, maybe $500 or, something like that. And you had that. When did you know you were onto something?
Let's see. It was probably not until I flipped the switch and started charging. So, um,
Ah,
that was you get early tire kickers, people using it, and until there's actually, some money in the bank, which took me a lot longer with the previous product, with the Notes product. I had the notion of the keep building a user base, keep building word of mouth, keep building this, and then flip on the switch later or find a way to charge and make money for this. So we were concentrated on like the user growth side versus this one. I'm like, you know what? That didn't really work out. It took me 3-4 years to get the stomach to, to create a paid plan and actually ask for money. And this one, I asked a lot
get there
quicker.
faster.
It was a lot sooner off of that stage that I told you of, like, using SurveyMonkey as the admin tool. It was just past that, I'd actually built a couple more admin stuff built into it. And all the beta users, I emailed them out and said, hey, like, we're going to start charging, and you can get a discount. And let's see what happens. Fortunately, within 2 days, I had my first paying customer.
All right. What year was that roughly?
This was 2015.
Okay, so you're still in 2015 here. So you got through this process to validate and build it, and I guess you had your minimum viable. It did the work, but it didn't, you got something to sell, minimum sellable product, so forth. That's your version there. And, small businesses who need and will pay for marketing referrals, coming through the web, it's a pretty wide market. How did you start to get customers? Was it SEO from the beginning or some other creative tactic?
There was a mix of things that, throwing spaghetti at the wall at that point in time. There was a lot of SEO just because I knew from what I learned previously, like that SEO is a tactic and how to do that. So I was able to rank early for those types of queries. So for
People
referral
were already
software,
searching
things like
for
that.
referral software. Yeah.
Exactly. So I could find that, and then in addition to that, and this one's hard to pinpoint the actual attribution, but on that day, I think I used Twitter, and I was often just anytime someone was in a conversation that related to referral marketing, right? I would try to insert myself in those conversations, and whether possibly too direct or indirect, you have to find that balance where someone doesn't just like want to kick you to the curb. So I don't know how much of that really worked. It was stuff I was just sort of doing manually, and then found some sketchy automation tools to help me do it. So, but
Yeah.
those were the early
Had you
days.
quit your consulting job yet, or how long did it take before you started to pay yourself?
So I didn't pay myself for a while, but I did quit my other consulting probably about 6 months from that first paying customer. So this is like late 2015, early 2016.
All right. And it started to go. Did you think this was going to be like I can quit and there'll be a couple of us, the indie hacker kind of dream, and it runs on autopilot. I don't have to talk to the customers. They just buy it, they just use it. Or did you have a bigger vision for creating something that could revolutionize, democratize referral marketing for
Ah,
small business?
I'd say it's a little in between. So the first thing is for me to even quit, I already knew I wasn't doing the indie hacker dream. So
Ah,
right. So the way I figured out how to sell and how to get people to buy was through what started. I started out just doing good support, and then I was chatting with customers that were coming to the site or signing up and whatnot, and it turned quickly into my efficiency brain of going, oh man, this is like annoying sitting here typing and chatting and trying to like I just want to have a conversation. So I started, oh, do you want me to just show you and have a conversation? So I don't think Zoom was around, and I used like WebEx and different things, and it was like, "Hey, let me
yes,
just
we
pop on
did.
and show you
Right.
these things." So I quickly figured out that I would sell a lot more. I probably sold maybe, I don't know, 40-50% of anyone I talked to, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Instead of just waiting to see if someone would buy after their trial, let's see if this works. So quickly that's where the revenue really started increasing. Also, when there became like the first raising of the prices that started at $50 a month and soon was at the $150 a month type of range.
And what is it at now, Josh?
We bounced around, but
Roughly.
right
Yeah.
now I think we roughly I would say the average person pays around $300 a month.
Yeah. They care about referrals and it works and they're willing to pay. But it also sounds like one of those products that isn't just like an app you download and Evernote you just use and you
Right.
never call anybody. And if there's not really support, you might Google something. If you talk to them, most people are confused about marketing and very confused about referral marketing. You talk to them, you help sort it out. You show them, they can see it. You can see if they're a good customer. There's probably a little onboarding, to make sure it
Definitely.
got set up right and just for their business and so forth and got working because if it didn't work, they weren't going to stay. But it was a little touch in there, right? It
Right.
wasn't a no touch business. So you were just kind of pulled into there and every time you helped them, every time you did a demo, everything worked better.
Yeah, and then help them with onboarding and all of those things, and that was at that point in time where I realized I couldn't do this myself, right? Like, it was my time developing or even my time on these sales calls being like, getting the question of, "Oh, does it do this?" And I'm like, "Well, if you sign up for an annual plan, by tomorrow, I could have this, like, Tuesday." That feature. The great
Yeah.
superpower of the
Yeah, the
single person doing
superpower.
that all. So,
Yeah, the salesperson, chief coding officer,
yep,
right?
yeah.
There was no begging involved to have that happen. And so how much revenue did you have when you brought in help employees?
It was probably around, I would say, between 3,000 to 5,000 a month.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah. And people weren't as expensive about, 8, 7, 8 years ago, these days. But Did you kind of run this business like, if I get some MRR and I'm pretty confident about it, I can hire another person. And if I want to hire somebody, I just got to get some more MRR, and, you kind of play this game that goes up. Is that how you thought about it?
Yeah, it was a combination of that and just backfilling what things that I was doing that were working, right? So the first person I hired was like to help with support docs, right? Write support docs, and that person also ended up writing blog posts, all those little things that would take more time. But I was either on sales calls or coding, right? So, and until there was enough of an engine of enough too many sales calls for me to handle, and also getting behind on the coding that needed to kind of keep up with the demand and other changes and requests. And that's when I started to look for like a first salesperson.
This is the old saying, old question. How many first salespeople did you have? Because it's treacherous to
Yes.
go from
No,
founder-led
definitely.
complexity
Yeah.
and the mess to a salesperson who can keep up with that.
So fortunately, I had a 50% hit rate. I had one that didn't work out, and the second one that I found was the guy I mentioned earlier, who is now running operations.
Oh, great. Would you say you figured it out, or you were lucky?
I think I was lucky. I mean, I think it was probably a combination. One of the things I first learned is like I was actually doing sales, right? And that was the thing I didn't know at that point in time. So I didn't define what I was doing by helping people with support and helping them like answer their questions was sales. I was like, oh, a salesperson goes, has a certain script, does all these things, the classic like used car salesman type of vision in your brain. And I'm like, well, once I have one of those, then they'll probably do even a better job than me, right? That was my fallacy at that point in time. So I hired what looked like a salesperson. It was a person that like kind of was more of a grinder. They did SMB, they sold to restaurants, they sold to all kinds. I was like, okay, cool. You're going to be able to just like, you take your formula, here's my software, like now go make it happen. And she fell on her face, and not fault of hers, but more fault of mine, right? So.
Yeah. This is a lesson that's hard earned, but for the most part, even if you're not an expert of it, the founder usually has to be the first one to figure it out, to try all the things, to kind of get enough shape to say it's mostly like this, it's kind of repeatable and perfect, like
Right.
to be able to hire somebody to do something you've figured out, as opposed to hiring somebody to fix the problem and then
Right.
run it. Is that a version of what you do? You'll do the front line, figuring out enough shape to hire somebody who could do the thing you finally figured out?
Yep, 100%. So that next person I found, I was just basically like, here, do what I do. And if you can, and also giving a short rope for that, right? Knowing that how fast that other one didn't work, because honestly, that pain was maybe only a month or two long of figuring out this isn't going to work with the first person. With the second person, he actually had a previous business. It said, I could do anything you could do but code. And I'm like, okay, let's see. Here's 5 meetings. Let's go see what you do. And here's 3 recordings of me doing ones, and, go wild. So I think I got lucky that he hit that. Now, who knows if I had to go through 5, 8 other people, maybe I have a very different story today.
Well, you were the bootstrap do-it-all founder, for better, for worse, and this person identified themselves as a bootstrapped employee.
Yeah.
If you can do it, I can do it. I'll figure it out. We'll figure it
Right.
out, right? Which is different than hiring somebody who's very experienced and needs a team and all that overhead kind of stuff here. Is what you thought it was going to be in the beginning, a referral, promotion and tracking and administration system for small businesses? Is that what it ended up being? Or did you have some epiphanies and pivots and
Uh,
adjustments? And
it's funny, as simply as you stated it, yes. But
okay,
what I
yeah.
would say, we took bad detours. So it's funny, is it, a
Yeah,
lot
the
of these things go
complexity
in
under the simple
cycles.
story. Let's go.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Right. So like my original point of view was very much for, hey, this car dealership, this service company, and how can I automate this, scale it for them, all these types of things. And it was not very complex, but complex enough to do the job. And later on, what we ended up doing was expanding scope too fast, listening to feature requests, and sort of continuing to
Listening
add
to
on to the
everybody
product.
in every direction.
Listening to
Yeah,
everybody, or also the engineer brain that wants to build the one widget that can do 50 things, right? Oh yeah, we can handle this use case. We can handle this use case. We can handle this use case. And before we knew it, over time, over 5 to 10 years, is you end up with still a usable product, but oh my gosh, there's so many steps. There's so much complexity to getting to that simple 1, 2, 3, like get your program out of the gate. And now we've, the past couple of years, we've really reversed on a lot of that. The same things that it's funny is I find myself looking at old designs and being like, oh, I had a really strong point of view that it only had like these 3 lines of text, on a referral page. And now you look at it like, hey, we gave a WYSIWYG editor, we gave all this, and customers would dump all kinds of things, right? So what we realize is like we just the strong point of view I had at the beginning, I now kind of go back and reference and actually hone that in with the best of both, if that makes sense.
This podcast is brought to you by my friends at Designly. If you're a non-technical founder with an up-and-running SaaS business, but your first product and dev partner aren't keeping up, it's time to check out Designly. Designly understands the pains you're experiencing right now. Dev leaders who speak in jargon and put you off, MVPs that went live and face technical problems and UX issues, and missed expectations all around. Designly's mission is to help non-technical software founders build great products with clarity, confidence, and peace of mind by serving as your fully outsourced engineering team. Designly becomes your trusted product partner, working with you every week as your dedicated team. They have partnered with over 200 non-technical and practical founders in the last 12 years. Designly knows how to turn that crazy product stress into calm and successful software launches. Check out their success stories from founders like you who've been there. It all starts with a free 1-week audit where they review your product's code, design, and roadmap to uncover what's working, what's broken, and what's next. Check out designly.co/practical. That's designli.co/practical to talk to them and see how they can help you move faster and sleep better. Well, we all start out saying yes to customers who will pay, right? And yes to things we need to try. And like getting to $1 million in ARR is about saying yes. And I call it the ADD phase, attention deficit disorder. We're just trying to see and say yes and survive. But did you feel like, okay, there's a focusing in. It's not all SMBs. It's just these ones. And it's not all features. It's just these things. And it's not all use cases. It's just these ones. Heading back to something more repeatable, higher value, leverageable. Is that a version of what you're going through or had gone through?
Yeah. So the past, I would say 2-3 years have been more of that. It was more of honing in on that, much more specific ICP versus the broadening we did through COVID, through the boom years of post-COVID, through so we had a lot of distractions that, you go back and you look at them and you're like, oh, I don't fault the decisions we made. I wish we made these other decisions sooner. One of the other ones
didn't look like a distraction at that time. It looked like a strategy. Right, yeah.
We had a major competitor go out of business like almost overnight. Not out of business, they got acquired, and then a year later, the private equity company that acquired them kind of shuttered the whole thing and said all the customers were we're turning off the service. All kinds of things, but that was we thought it was a money grab situation in terms of their customers had to go somewhere. They had features we didn't, so we quickly went down a different tunnel to build out those features.
I've seen that a bunch of times.
Yeah,
yes,
and it was really actually a very different market as well.
Okay, so you learn something there. Well, this is where timing and luck meets all the craziness in a business. And when it works out, you say, weren't we smart, right? And we did it deliberately. When it doesn't work out, you say, it's bad luck and all that kind of stuff. But you got to keep trying to find luck, and see where that is. Was that the kind of company you were? You were slow growing and profitable, but you kept trying to find levers for growth and,
I would say we were mostly riding the waves that were there.
I see.
We had a strong, like I said, we had a strong SEO and inbound. We did that really well. And we, without doing much, we were sort of just, we felt like we were just like listening and making these small little adjustments as we go. And everything kept working in terms of like, anywhere from 50 to 30% growth a year. And we're like, okay, we're
The
cruising.
compounding game, steady.
Yeah. We're hiring different people for different skill sets as we grow. And, that was all working until it wasn't. So.
Well, let's talk about that.
Sure.
It sounds like you kept on listening to customers and tweaking your SEO and probably other marketing strategies, adding team members, learned a lot of lessons there, but you kind of had steady growth year. Did you hit a plateau? Very common for software companies.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we did. Mm-hmm.
Was that the post-COVID, everybody retrenched and nothing was as easy as it was during COVID?
Yes, it was post-COVID. It was, and just sitting back and realizing all of the things we did by just slowly adding and realizing how complex things got, right? One from a user experience perspective and even from a pricing and packaging perspective as well.
So how do you go back to keep it simpler? And usually it's part of the exercise to get to 10 million up. It's a business that's really good at just something for just something important for someone specific. And they have 1.5 go-to-market that they're really excellent at. It's not more of everything, more features, more channels, more people that gets you to 10 million from 1 or 2. How do you think about, like, let's say, refocusing?
I mean, it started with that pricing and packaging that we did a few years ago, which was we had the classic good, better, best type of model, which again, very adaptable to that horizontal, anyone can kind of come in. Play. But
across industries, sizes, yes.
And the challenge and the tension in that was we were always just shooting for like what seemed to be a middle number. But as we talked about even earlier, like a car dealership values a referral very differently than a t-shirt company. And so if your value metrics are around number of contacts or like how many people can join the referral program or how many referrals you get, all of those types of things, one of the big ones we weighted ourselves on was the number of members in a program, like contacts in a CRM, that type of thing. And you would look at these pricing mechanisms, and if we had a good, better, best model, it looks good for someone or it looks bad for another person. Or if we try to hit it in the middle, it looks okay for everyone, right? So like
the average didn't really work. Yeah,
exactly. So one of our big things was splitting our product or our plans so that the packaging of them into 2 specific, some people call them swim lanes or fences, if you've heard those terms before, because it was different value to do with different customers. So we went from good, better, best to 2 lanes of 2 separate plans where only certain features that match those, the car dealership and a CRM type of customer versus the e-commerce high
you weren't great for anybody.
Low touch.
You're pretty good. Yes, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is one of the challenges of horizontal, especially in small business. It's vast. You say small business, it could be 5 people or 2 people. It could be 50. It could be 500, right? Technically.
Exactly.
And industries are different. Their customer acquisition, experience with marketing and technology, lifetime value is very different. Did you have like knobs and pricing and everything just so no matter where they came from, you could say yes to them? And right, it was kind of had a pretty wide aperture?
In those early days, no. And when we had that good, better, best, it just had to fit in those within, since we had a sales team, they had certain liberties to like add a feature, give a discount, different things. But for the most part, the tensions they were running into that, they couldn't necessarily identify, we just started to see as we stepped back. Those were just some of the things that we realized needed a better infrastructure, needed a better base so they could, even a customer walking in the door would raise their hand and you're like, oh, you're in this lane. You're in column A, so let's just talk about column A, right? So, and once that happened, it was much easier to have those conversations and much easier to kind of understand like the value alignment between what the customer is looking for, what they were willing to pay, and what we could provide.
And so you didn't get to, they're usually in the 2, 3, 4 million ARR. Sometimes a little lower for a lower price point SMB software. You kind of realize we've done the analysis on churn, and SMB churn, small business churn is notoriously a problem. They don't know what they're looking for. It's hard for them to get value. Small businesses change, all that stuff. It's one of the problems with small business software. Did you say, for years we've been selling to these guys, we're not selling to them anymore, right? Or unless they have a certain amount of revenue or a certain price point or a certain marketing understanding, we're not going to sell to them. Did you start to say no more often just to kind of find your leverage?
So when we did that split of the plan, we have the ones that were e-commerce and that type of thing. We kept plans there because we still had successful customers there. And if they came in inbound, we knew how to service them. But for the most part, we're really focusing on one of the other segments, which is the one that is right. So if you looked on the site, there's a professional line versus the engage line, right? The engage is that low touch, and essentially the professional line is the high touch, has a sales team, has a service team type of thing.
And I'm going to guess 80% of your revenue is the higher touch version, something like that.
Probably around there.
Yes, right. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? So this is another way to focus. You didn't say no. You didn't say go away. You just reprioritize. The homepage and the pricing pages lean heavily, and you can find the other one as another page, right. I guess.
And the other one still works, and the other one's still doing, but we are not building nearly as many features down that route, and that type of thing. And yeah, so it was a matter of that's how we focus. We didn't say no to those. We still had a process that they could be successful, but it was not where we're really focusing and trying to hone in on a ICP.
Right. So have you been about this revenue level for a year or two as churn and changes and market headwinds kind of play out?
Yep.
Or some version of that? Okay. How do you think about that, Josh? This is an important question for practical founders because everybody hits plateaus. I see the growth game. If anybody's got to 10 or 20 million or 100 million, there are plateaus. It's more like stair steps than it is this straight line, right? Sure. And the stair steps are regrouping and retooling and so forth. How do you view this as a, long-term profitable founder? Do you view this as just a normal part of the growth path or something really frustrating along the way? Or a puzzle to be solved, or a disappointment, or how do you view, this
for
time?
me, it is a puzzle to be solved, right? So I wouldn't say, of course, anytime you try to build something, you hope that it'll, of course, you'll just keep hitting accelerators and different serendipitously find those things, right? But I've learned through my life, for the most part, there's things that work and things that work for a certain duration, right? So, and this is one of those ones. And for me, and I think it probably comes back to just one, how I think about the business, because and my innate goals for the business, I think are different than most founders. So,
let's talk about that. Yeah.
Sure. Like one of the classic questions anytime I'm talking to another founder is, they'll ask me what my exit strategy is. And my answer is usually, well, I don't really have one. That's not how I think about the business, right? It's a very clear type of thing where I'm like, I enjoy my work, and that's probably, if anything, my North Star is like, am I having fun? Do I enjoy this work? And I also continuously reinvent, I say, myself and my role to fit those. Like, as you've seen, the filling back behind me, there might be a job I had to do that I didn't enjoy, but then I'll do that until it's no longer like the limiting step, and then backfill for myself.
Right. Okay. So if somebody came with a pile of money, you could consider selling the company, or not really?
Well, I don't really leave my door open for anyone to walk in with the pile of money.
Okay, right. So all of those people knocking on your door, you delete them, I guess, at this point.
I pretty much do. Even though I've heard plenty of founders and other people tell me I should take those calls just to build relationships and things like that. But honestly, right now, I'm viewing my time as a limiting factor for focusing on the business. And I'm like, is that just going to be another distraction?
There's not much leverage in it right now if it's not really your goal. So another way to, and if you had raised money, even a modest amount from an institutional hurry up and get us to an exit, like a Plateau is really painful. And actually, most VC-funded founders get stuck. They raise on a Series A. They can't get to the growth level to
Right.
raise the next round. And, we hear about the success stories that did it for 5 years, the DoorDashes and whatever, Ubers and everything else. But most founders get stuck along the way, and they plateau, and they can't raise another round, and things get really painful.
Right.
So, there's a lot of gratefulness of founders that say, I still like my job. And sure, SEO has changed this year.
Yep.
With
Definitely.
all the AI, search that's going on, and we'll have to regroup. But, are you kind of okay with, changing your mind, doing different things, learning,
Yeah.
having
I mean,
different
I think
beliefs, right? We were
if
SEO
anything,
before,
it
but
gets
maybe
back.
that, yeah.
It gets back to, honestly, again, like, I said, the product had that original point of view, and that we're sort of getting back to this simpler, slimmer point of view from the product standpoint. So I'm still really excited about that. So it's sort of reshaping, what you have. It's a new problem to solve, a new puzzle to solve. And how can I do it so I can keep as many existing customers, but also are the new customers, getting on and getting successful faster. So that challenge is very intriguing and interesting to me. And which also reminds me of all the other little things, as we talked about too in this conversation, all the things I was doing in the beginning of, like, I would always be working on the most high leverage or most important task. And what also changed throughout those, I would say, that the years where we were growing on pretty much autopilot, once that stopped, it was also because I wasn't always doing the most leveraged things at that point in time. I was doing different things, right? And getting back to that mentality of the beginning is more of what I'm like looking at and like, oh, okay, I need to get back in that mode of, you know, finding where the bottleneck is, finding where the and when you grow your team, you kind of think, oh, well, some of these people are just going to innately take those things over, and you realize you still actually have to lead. You still have to set the tone. You still have to help those. So that has reinvigorated me as well, is like re-looking at it from a growth model and lever and limiting step perspective, which I kind of stopped doing for a bit in the middle when it was looked like everything we did grew anyway.
Yeah, that darn autopilot, things are going well. I could step back, and then the world changes. Between competition or the go-to-market levers out there
Right.
change and all of that. Let's talk about your team. You did this with yourself to start, and then a few people, and you were the individual coder guy in the beginning, indie hacker, and all of that. But now you got a team of 20 and some leaders and some team. How did you build your team? Are they all over the world? And, how did you figure out how to be a leader of a larger team?
Slowly.
Yeah.
I
Was
mean,
it
I
slowly and deliberately, or slowly and painfully?
would say slowly and deliberately.
Yeah, okay.
I think I do a nice job of self-reflection and standing back. So when I
Okay,
decide to
there we
do
go.
something and I'm going through and, for example, I learned if I had more than I think if I have more than 4 direct reports, like, I break down, right? Like, I can't do deep work, I can't do other things, and realizing how I needed to structure my core leadership team. Um, and that was probably a big one that I quickly figured out once I had 5, and it was like, this isn't working. This doesn't feel
Because
right.
you
This
didn't
doesn't
have
work
enough
for
time
me.
to do the deep work, deep
Right.
thinking. You just had filled up your calendar, right? Of this is no fun.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Okay. What
Um,
other epiphanies did you learn as coder founder to, you know, you got a, systematic CEO. It's not a huge company yet, but,
right. Right.
yeah.
I think a lot of it too tracks back to, I don't know, you've seen the midwit meme, right? And like this feels like a constant thing we keep talking about. What you did in the beginning is actually probably the more of the right answer. And as you meander and do all the other things, and then you realize actually what I was doing in the beginning was the right answer. But
Sometimes it works that way, but
it
sometimes
does.
the refocusing is, okay, we moved up market, or we thought it was this, and then it's that. It's another narrative
Sure.
out there. We thought it was this, and then it
Sure.
was that.
But I would say one of the ones with the people side was, and I think you mentioned once, like that sales hire was a good example of me doing the job and then backfilling. And I would probably tell any founder that they should always do that, because one, it helps you with the interview process. You don't have to go in and just being like, oh, This is what I think marketing does. Take a week, take 2 weeks at least. That'll save you much more pain in doing that job. I'm going to be a marketer for 2 weeks. Okay, first I have to understand what all these terms are, and even just throw yourself at it as a challenge. Maybe knowing you're going to hire for it is fine, but even if that just being able to do the job before you hire, then it'll be like, now you know what type of marketer do I need, because you'll realize marketing is just as broad as, if a developer, you say like, oh, are you a back-end developer? Are you a front-end developer? Are you a full stack? Do you know databases? Do you know system management? That type of thing. So,
Well, this is an old question. I've worked with a lot of companies to help sort out this phase in between 1 and 10 million. And it's usually you get what worked in the beginning doesn't get you there. And more of everything doesn't help. And doing everything harder, meaning working longer, more features, emailing harder, right? Adding another salesperson, raising funding doesn't really help. There's something deeper going on under those tactics, right? And which is focusing in on the stuff that gets leveraged, the message that gets heard, the customers that you could serve, the differentiation, the stickiness, all of that stuff where life is good over in the ICP corner, right? But, and sometimes that's an evolution of what back to your roots. Sometimes it's an adjustment there. But you sound a lot like Jason Fried of Basecamp, who says, I love building. I'm not trying to sell this thing. If we're making profits, we have the ability to keep solving the puzzle. Are you thinking about rebuilding your product? They've rewritten Basecamp 3 or 4 times in 20 years?
No,
Would you ever consider that?
No, I'm definitely not as have the profit margins they do.
Yes, there you go. That helps. Right.
And so in the big product changes we're making, we have to make some of these trade-off decisions of understanding, is this going to be, will our new users will this be a new version just for new users, or even iterations inside the product in different segments of it, or is there an upgrade path for them, or is it something that is just a toggle switch, turn this on, turn this off type of thing? So those are a lot of the challenges we have to wrestle with trying to redesign certain parts of the system. We have to know, we have to really focus on who we're serving within the base. Is it just new, or is it existing as well, right? And sometimes those come with challenges.
Well, let's talk about the referral game, right? Meaning in software, if your software is good and you're selling, especially in a vertical, you expect them to tell their friends and people to show up and say, Bob told me, and so forth. The referral ought to be a material amount of your measurable, attributed new leads and new customers and so forth. Sometimes 20, 30, 50%, something like that, if you're doing it right. There's the viral coefficient and so forth here. But, you're doing those incentives and proactive referral requests and being systematic and so forth here. What are some of the keys that you can share for our practical founders out there? Because this comes up in our practical founder peer groups. I think I need to have a referral program. And is it affiliate? Is it this? And it's kind of messy. It's kind of complicated. So what can you say that would be helpful to people thinking about a proactive referral program?
So I would first say affiliate is very different. Separate out affiliate as more partner cash, possibly recurring. I could go down other points of view on that one, but we'll just side that out as a very different thing. And I think as Infusionsoft background, like that's a very powerful thing, but it is not the same necessarily as a customer referral program. And that's where we're focused on. And what I would say is the best way to describe it is it's like assisted word of mouth, right? And so you need to have word of mouth already. You need to have enough of a customer base that is coming in. So like, think of it like a river flowing. You have enough inflow of regular customers through a channel you have already established. This isn't an independent channel. You're going to have this one that is coming along, and you have to have customers coming in. And they should already be referring. They like your service, they like your product, all these other reasons they enjoy your company. And what you're doing is you're adding reminders, incentives, you're adding, what's that typical, trying to think of what that, it's like you can either reduce friction or increase motivation, right? To get people to the next steps. So referral programs do both, right? It reduces friction by potentially reminding people, hey, we have a referral program and those types of things. So those are the biggest things that are prerequisites to having success. So I wouldn't even start a referral program, a customer referral program, unless you had a steady flow of existing customers from a channel, and there are enough in there that are referring, and you're just going to multiply off of what is already there.
Okay, that's great. That's a really powerful distinction here. Does that mean that's a question you ask in your funnel and your marketing and sales, and you put them off to the side to say, hurry up and get some referrals before you come back and talk to sales about doing more of that? Do you literally redirect them back to go get more referrals if they're not there yet?
We do in the sales process. So part of our
Right.
sales
Okay.
process is very consultative. So one, for our own, are we going to waste our time trying to
Right.
squeeze water out of
Yeah.
nothing or something like that? So, and in our marketing language and any of this stuff on our website, our blog posts, all these things talk about these same types of things.
Yeah,
in
you're
terms of-
educating. So people can go
Yes.
to referralrock.com and learn about how to get more referrals and what it is and when to start. And, what are some of the components of a referral proactive program? Does it always need some type of incentive? Get a t-shirt, get a Starbucks card, get a cash, get a month free, get a something?
Not for necessarily for the customer. And that's probably the nuance. The power of the customer referral program really lies in the gift for the friend. So we've had ones that are successful because it just, what ends up being is like, I want to refer you to a business, or Zvi wanted to refer, to you. So, and he knew at that point in time, he's like, okay, Josh has done podcasts. Josh is like, it's actually, and had already experienced for himself, having this interview with you. Like, oh, Greg's a good guy. He's not going to grill you. He's going to paint you in a good light, but also talk about all these things that could help other founders. Like, this sounds like something Josh would be interested in, right? So he's doing it from a reputation management for himself, because if he sent me to a bad thing, how would I think of him, right? But he doesn't necessarily need anything in it for him either. But that's where it starts at the core of like a recommendation or that personal referral. So if anything...
And let me be clear about I've used this terminology before. It's actually a gift to the referee, to you, to
Yes.
say, Josh, you could go there and get a little promotion or something like that, and you'd enjoy
Yes.
this conversation. He's giving a gift, right?
Yes.
And he may not want to be paid for that gift, and sometimes
Right.
that turns him off from the gift.
Right.
But a referral is a gift. I'm going to help you out and say, you should talk to these people, right?
Right.
So... Okay.
So
there we
yeah,
go. What else
in
can
that
you
light,
share?
that's one of the key elements. And there's a lot of, other mistakes or misnomers. That's one of the big ones, which is like, oh, people walk in the door and saying, well, if I give more to the customer, and they're actually, no, that's actually not the key driver. It matters, but it doesn't. If you only could pick one, have them, give them something to give to their friend. Give them a 25% discount coupon or credit that they can give to a friend, and those types of things. Those are that, again, that word of mouth assistance is what, helps spur more
acceleration, you might say.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Something
Yeah.
useful there. So do you have to talk to every company and say, all right, what do you sell and what's your price point and how much do you pay for a new customer? Kind of vaguely, if you can get it.
Yep.
And what's it worth to you and what have you tried before? And then kind of flip the switches to say, all right, you need this kind of landing page and you probably should have this kind of incentive and this kind of tracking and this is a reasonable expectation. Is everybody a little different? It sounds kind of different.
Yeah. No, that's how we approach it. And most people don't actually, you probably know this, but most people don't know what their like value of a customer per se is. So even when we used to ask that more on these consultative calls with potential customers, a lot of them didn't know. And we're like, okay, I don't know if we can. So there's a lot of other signals we can pin on, if they can be successful and how to formulate their program. But
and to make sure they get value and to, charge for that value. For instance, if you got one new customer a month, that would pay for this times 10.
Right.
And that would be good, right? You could
Right.
kind of get in that neighborhood. That's one way to do it. Very interesting. And what is the biggest reason that somebody signs up with enthusiasm, makes it through the filters, and doesn't make it? Is they just don't change their habit? They can't get, I don't know, they don't get it in the system? What do you have to get over to make this sticky?
So one of the more recent epiphanies out of this for us is actually we did a big deep dive in examining a lot of the ones that even paid for us and started with us and might have even launched their program and didn't get sustained referrals month over month. And aside from the other attributes we talked about in terms of like, what is the firmographics or the description of the business? Do they have word of mouth? All of that. One of the biggest ones is they just get tired and they stop. And
it sounds like work. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and what's funny enough, and most of it is built into this fallacy that referral programs are a launch. They are a campaign. They are, and maybe this is because mostly it comes from marketing, right? A marketing metric might be drive leads, get more business. So if they come in and they're thinking like holiday promotion, they're thinking, Labor Day campaign, Black Friday deal, that type of mentality.
One time, tactical burst. Yeah.
Right. And then it'll just take care of itself, right? And so they put all their eggs in that basket. They get everything around this launch. And the biggest challenge we saw when we were really digging into it, you're like, okay, if you really step back and think about it, those 10,000 people on your email list, how many people did business with you in the past 3 months? Those are probably the most likely ones that will actually refer. So you went from this, I'm going to send it out to my list of 10,000.
50% ought to refer.
And 50% refer, and then it'll be great. And they'll just keep doing it forever, right? Right. And it's like, no, actually, you have to look at it in that, like I use that river analogy. You have this wave of maybe this 3,000 of them in the past, and that's going to keep going. So you need to hook it into the things
There's
that
an ideal
keep coming.
referrer profile that it's not everybody who could refer. It's just these people over here.
Yeah. And it's also based on timing. So to do your ongoing ones, you need to hook into other automations you might have. Like, hey, I want to hook into anyone that joined the email list over this period and then send invite them to the referral program or ask them to share. And they forget to do those things, or they say, oh yeah, I'm going to do those, but I'll do them later. But they put all those eggs into the launch basket. Then they're disappointed because they didn't get 5,000 referrals and they didn't hook up the things that are going to keep them getting 20, 30, 40 a month. And they go, well, this didn't work. And I tried the project and it didn't work.
Yeah. Do you think that's more about expectations? And that's how most things go. We think we're going to get a quick hit, but we got the other 90% of the work, to build it into our systems and change our habit and iterate 10 times to finally get it in our, in our DNA.
I don't think it's probably just about misnomers, right? Like the same ones a lot of we've talked about with different things, founders having different ones, thinking about just here's my default impulse of how I would approach this. But here it's one of those things where 3 or 4 of those are wrong, right? Like I should be giving more money to the customer doing the referring. Actually, no, and or I need to be this big campaign versus actually building it in so that I'm inviting every person that kind of comes in the door, and they do that instead of this. So they often pick, by default coming in, the fallacies. They pick all those options that are not going to lead to ongoing success.
Yeah, I know. So it's a little trickier than people imagine, right?
It definitely is, yeah.
A lot of small business, with a kind of a heavier solution like you, small business tool, especially in sales and marketing, they tend to drift up. HubSpot was small and now they're, much bigger, and most drift up to where people, there's a referral partner manager or something like that, right? Who really gets it and so forth. Well, AI is moving faster. Right, generative AI has been a few years around here, but it's really affecting practical software companies this year. Aside from SEO being your main lever, and people are doing less SEO and more AI, what other? I don't know. How is AI affecting your business, and how do you think about it? Are you going to AI your product and AI your people?
I wouldn't say AI our people. It hasn't really affected our market per se, because I think word of mouth is not really something you could just slap AI on to do for you per se. If anything, it leans heavier into people and relationships. So whether that becomes more of a light bulb moment for someone else shifting outside of AI, it can be the other side. We have yet to see that wave, but internally, we definitely are looking to use it to optimize different things, to take out the drudge work that some people were doing. And we're not using it to like replace anybody, but we're also using it to just, how can we put them in a better position or higher leverage? How can we use recordings? How can we
Yeah.
do our meetings? How can we do different things and gain our own internal efficiencies? And in the product, we're often looking at different parts of it, of where AI could help, right? So, and honestly, there's only a few small things that we've kind of thought about that could actually like move the needle. One of them might be on like messaging, helping customers come up with all the text they need to put on those pages, because
The
oftentimes they
content,
just
yes. Uh-huh.
look at it, right? But again, it goes back to any of the good AI practices today is like, well, making sure you set the correct context before you ask it to do the thing. So leveraging, like we now want to input all these things like, here's our best practices, here's what to do and not to do, and make sure that that gets built in to the messaging suggestions and those types of things. So we are looking, but I don't think they're huge, AI has finally hit referral marketing. There's no headline like that that's going to excite anyone.
Well, I really appreciate it. What a great story here. And you're rebuilding and, getting into the deeper puzzles and
Yeah.
moving things around. And you don't have an investor with a gun to your head or, and a clock,
Right. Yep.
sitting next to you. What a, fun time with a team that you like to be around and a problem you like to solve. What advice do you give most often to founders in the DC area that you meet in your network and people you've interviewed on your previous podcast and your founder friends? What advice do you give most often about how to play this game? You're playing it in your own way, but
Mhm.
what would you say to practical founders out there who are getting on the field and trying to grow up?
The biggest thing is I try to tell them like what to avoid. It's hard to tell them
Yes.
what to go do because all of
Yes. Thank
everyone's
you.
challenges are different. And the biggest ones I would say is, I think a classic one is like avoiding obsessing over competition. I think you can use it as a general good inspiration for things and just understanding of the market and whatnot. But even as low as someone's like, oh, I really, what, if I could have that, that the ex head of sales from such and such company. And I feel like those are such a big trap because one, it's almost this weirdly too close. It's like they might have a hardened view of how they view the market or the product or these types of things. And yours might be different, but it might be like nuanced and close enough, but not quite that it's like that you almost would be better off with a clean slate and a different type of sale. So, that, and again, obsessing over the customers, not competitions, numbers, who their market is, all these different things. There's a lot of things to look at it, but obsessing over it and kind of letting it keep you up at night when you see they get PR or they get a headline and you don't. I don't think it's really worth too much to, back to the classic, like run your own race type of advice.
And do founders ask you about funding? You did it on without funding. Should I do it with funding? What do you tell people when they say, I've got an idea, I'm thinking about some funding, or should I get some?
I probably don't get that one too much, mostly because I think the people that reach out to me, the people I connect with
There you go.
often are sort of in a similar mindset as
There you
me. But if ones that did, it would mostly be like, is this, do you want to play that game? And this is what that game
Yes.
entails. So, and some people don't know that there's another game, which is often very highlighting, right? Because if you were the first, like we even started with when I first started Ubernote, it was because I was reading TechCrunch and reading all these other things about Web 2.0.
It's all about the
And
funding.
all you saw were those headlines and funding and so-and-so growing or so-and-so raised this amount of money. And if that's you view as startups, there's such a deep, rich ecosystem out there. And if you kind of take your time more and go through, and maybe you have to do it, learn by doing, and that's fine.
Awesome. Well, it's the point of this podcast, and the stories of people who are figuring it out and doing it in their own way. There's many ways to do it. I like what you said about, it isn't what you should do. It's some things you might avoid, right? That's a more general way to go at it. I really appreciate you sharing your story on the Practical Founders podcast, Josh. And good luck as you figure out the puzzle and get to whatever next level you think is where you want to go, whatever that is.
Right. Well, thanks a lot, Greg. This was a lot of fun.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for watching this week's interview on the Practical Founders podcast. Be sure to like this episode and subscribe to the Practical Founders YouTube channel to keep up with my weekly in-depth interviews with serious software founders who are building valuable software companies without big funding. You can check out my blog, all the podcast episodes, and information about my Practical Founders CEO peer groups at practicalfounders.com. Or message me on LinkedIn if you'd like to connect. See you next week.